We live. Get in here. All things self-care. If you're with me, get in here. If not, watch the replay. We're going to talk about what is self-care. We'll wait for a few minutes, let this register to some people. I see one person on. When you get on, let me know you're there. Say hello to me. I see 2. Come on, 3. Say hello. Hey now. All things self-care. We're going to talk about it today. I promise 6:30. I'm on here. With a couple of tries. We got on. All things self-care. You get in here, let me know you're there. When 2 or 3 are gathered, I'm going to go ahead and give it. All right? All right. Let's go. What is self-care? Self-care is about you. Yes, you consistently and consciously caring for yourself. Hey, Melanie, I see you. Thank you for joining. Self-care means taking the time to do things to help you live well. How many agree with that? How you doing, Melanie? Hey, Lillian, I see you coming up the timeline. It means you are simply mindful of your own needs. Self-care. How many agree with that? Your own needs. When you take care of yourself, you are better able to meet and support the needs of the people around you. Type in self-care. I don't want this to kind of be like a teaching course. I want this to kind of be interactive. So this is my first real live giving full instructions. But if you watch my self-care talk, then you know self-care is about you. It is about you taking care of yourself. You know, I have this practice that I do often, right? It's called sitting with myself. And that's simply acknowledging what I need, right? What makes me happy? What brings me joy? What are my triggers? Hey there, Miss Foster, good to see you on. A space where you only see yourself, might I add. It's essential to place your needs as valuable. Self-care is also consists of establishing healthy routines, getting back to the basics, eating a balanced meal, exercising, setting boundaries with folk. Self-care, aiming to get a good night's sleep at night, right? Sometimes sleep is subjective. Yeah, sleep is subjective, but you know you need your rest. You gotta get your rest, because if you don't, your body will surely let you know. Self-care is valuable. It's vital. And we must engage in our self-care in every form, right? It should be daily. Choosing the food we eat. Yes, exercising, affirming ourselves. What do you say about you? What do you say to yourself? Who do you say you are? I'll give you an example. If there's a function we have to attend and there's covered dish we've been asked to bring, we don't have no problem bringing our covered dish to that function if we mastered it, right? So we have to continue to affirm ourselves. If you are love, if love is who you are, be love. Let love be your power. Talk back to me here. I don't want to be talking to myself. Kaya, good to see you, baby. And what happens then? If you're love, if you're joy, if that's your fruit, you're known by the fruit you bear, right? People look for that. Listen, if you're happy and you know it, your face should surely show it. Yeah. So my self-care or my tool or what I've mastered is joy. I talked about that before. I mastered joy. And so because that's the space I want to live in, hey, there it is. Joy is where I want to be. Joy is where I want to dwell. It's joy. Can we pause for a moment? I want to say this. Can we pause for a moment? Some of us need to take the time to appreciate how far we've come. Look at all the work you've done to get to this point. Celebrate yourself. Let me start by saying I'm happy you made it. I'm so proud that you weren't overtaken by what could have consumed you. Yeah, so we celebrate you now. Yeah, may you be the person that you've called to be. Yes, I understand. We all have made mistakes, and, we may not be where we think we ought to be. But the work you've already done to put in to be where you are here is enough, right? Listen, we ain't got nothing else to prove. We've already beat the odds with people, places, and things. Type self-care. We ain't got nothing else to prove. If you agree, say self-care. The question is, what are the benefits of practicing self-care? What are the benefits? Self-care is you purposefully taking care of yourself so you can stay mentally, emotionally, spiritually, socially, and physically well. Research says that self-care encourages healthy outcomes, like building resilience, living longer, right? Having better stress management skills, self-care. And I believe many of you in this room, the 4 people in this room, made a conscious decision to be here, or somebody told you about it. But to be successful at self-care, you must be deliberate. It is a conscious act to promote your own mental self-care. How you think influences your psychological well-being. Emotional self-care, having the healthy coping skills to deal with uncomfortable emotions, right? If you watch my talk, it's important to find someone to talk with or to write your feelings out as often as needed. Yeah. Social self-care. What are you connected to? What is the purposeful meaning of your life? Not aimlessly living, right? But doing it on purpose. Self-care. You have to be deliberate. Purposefully caring for yourself. Doing it on purpose. Type in the chat, be intentional. Be intentional. Be intentional with engaging in some form of self-care daily, right? Let's talk about the statistics. What are the people saying? If you didn't know, 64% of Americans say they don't have time to take care of themselves. They don't have time. Preoccupied with people, places, and things. 74% of people consider self-care as a means of taking care of their bodies. You know how we do? We gotta look good, right? We gotta look good. But are we good on the inside? Yeah. Do we have the healthy coping skills to deal with uncomfortable emotions? 57% of the people say, they take time as a mental break. Self-care is a mental break, right? Getting away from everything. Some of the statistics kind of scared me, or not scared me, but I kind of didn't know that 39% of men say that they consistently make time for themselves. And only 32% of women do. Now, I kind of took issues with that because I grew up in a community where women ran it, right? They ain't have time for themselves because they was raising their children, other folk children, looking out for big mama them. You know how we do. Be intentional. Be intentional. Be intentional about loving yourself. Be intentional about showing up for yourself. Be intentional. 59%, 3 out of 5 people only practice self-care if they feel stressed. You know how it is. We go into survival mode when we are uncomfortable. When things don't go our way, when we are flustered, we go into survival mode. So we do anything we can to survive in that moment. And if self-care is it, we choose it for the moment. But then what do? Go back to the regular behaviors. Yeah. Type in self-care. Why do people not practice self-care? Many people struggle with self-care because their focus tends to be on other people's feelings, other people's needs, and their problems. Not having enough in our reservoir for ourselves. I remember years ago, my wife used to say, go on out there and save the world. I'll be here when you get back. Not that, she's not called to whatever she's called to, but sometimes we can OD on our family too much. We can be outside of our safety, of our peace, right? And we are sharing it with other people, giving it to other people. When the people who matter the most, we don't have enough for them, right? The people who love us, the people who's on our side, the people who's there when we need them. So we got to be conscious about making sure that we have enough for the people who matter to us, for ourselves, right? Hey, Christina, good to see you on here. Taking care of others, often at our own expense. Codependency. I've been there. I'm a witness. Part of changing these patterns is shifting from taking care of others to taking care of yourself, right? Tuning in to your own feelings, to your own needs. Yeah, you gotta be in tune with yourself. You got to sit with yourself, as I previously stated. I sit with myself and decide on what is it that I need. You know, what brings me joy? Yeah, I'm full of joy, but I need joy too. Right? So we got to be attentive to ourselves. Right? When are you going to acknowledge or accept that it's your turn? When are you going to choose you? If you believe it's your turn, type in the chat, it's my turn. I want to see it. This is an affirmation. It's your turn. If you watch my talk, that was, my exit. That's what I left with you. Now it's your turn to do what? Apprehend yourself with the things that concern you. Yes, it is your turn. Let's deal with the barriers. Right? Because, self-care have common barriers. Things that we're up against when it comes to self-care. Guilt. How many of us have been guilty of not taking care of ourselves because we worried about somebody else? Or we worried about, well, we ain't gonna be able to do this, or how people feel, right? Another barrier, stress on our job. That's them people's job. Now, I ain't telling you go up there and quit now, but you have to find peace and going to work, being a good person, and going home, right? You there to work. You also there to, do whatever you call, because some people are just working. Some people are called to do what they're doing, right? So there's a difference. You got to find your place, right? And you got to be able to balance those stresses at work. Family pressure. What about me? What about me? Everybody talking about, what about me? What about me? Yes, what about me? Yeah. Everybody need to take care of themselves. And if we all were doing that, how many know we would be in a better place? Because we've given up our time, our energy, right? We can't get back that time because we've given it to other people already. Lack of time, which is what I was talking about. Lack of time, lack of resources, lack of knowledge, fear. Fear. Can we pause right there and denounce fear? Fear does not exist where power is. Get you some power, right? Get you some strength. Get you some. So, and a side note, let's do this side note. I'm not here to judge or prove the people right or wrong. All I'm here to do is to provide you with an alternative way of looking at how we care for ourselves. Some people have their way of caring for themselves, some have another. This group, this moment is about you standing up for you this time without fear, without pressure. I'm only here to share an alternative way of looking at how we care for ourselves. So let's denounce fear. Fear does not exist. You're right, Lillian. It's the fear. We got to get over people. We got to allow people not to control our moves, the way we live, the way we interact, where we go, right? We have to denounce fear. And that's a constant, right? It is a constant. You can't just denounce fear today and think fear ain't gonna show up tomorrow. It will. But what do you do when it does? Denounce it, right? You aren't fearful. And if you are a believer, God didn't give you a spirit of fear anyway, but of power and of a sound mind. Ain't no wrong with you. Denounce that fear and live. Take this moment, this opportunity to live. All 6 of you. Live. You know, there's something I like to talk to my clients about when I'm discussing barriers, and this is another barrier. Another barrier that I discuss is dialectical thinking. Dialectical thinking. That's seeing things in multiple perspectives, right? It's a form of analytical reasoning, that pursues knowledge and truth as long as there are questions and conflicts. I'll give you an example. I remember watching the news in 1992. I think it was around May, I'm not sure. But it was around 1992 where it was snowing in parts of North Carolina where I'm from. And all I heard and all I was hearing was, I can't believe it's snowing. It's May. It's snowing and it's spring. Folk couldn't believe it. They was ranting about it, the people. And even the people who weren't affected, because I don't even believe it snowed in my part of town, right, in Triad. But listen, another dialectic that I like to discuss is when it comes to conflicts with people, I like to call it the elephant in the room, right? It's the elephant in the room. Most of the time, our immediate conflict is that we want either or, right? We want it to be snowing or we want it to be spring. We have to change our thinking from all of nothing to both. I'll give you another example. Instead of thinking or saying, I am a failure, change that. Because listen, we do fail sometime and we do succeed. That's a part of life, right? But what we need to change our thinking into, sometimes I fail, sometimes I succeed, right? So we ask ourselves, sometimes with dialectics, there is this feeling of, what do I do when there's a conflict between the two, right? When there's seemingly two opposing things that have tension. What do I do then? Just allow the two to exist simultaneously. One side is not fully correct and the other side, we don't have to choose, right? We don't have to. There's a tug of war, but both can exist. It can be spring and snowing at the same time is what I'm saying. And so what do? Sometimes this acceptance gives you freedom to move on, right? Sometimes it gives you freedom to move on or to find a different solution. Listen, and sometimes it's just an opportunity to sit in an uncomfortable moment and learn how to tolerate it. Type in self-care. Hey, Cindy, I see you. As they call it, it is what it is. We have to be conscious of our self-care needs. We got to be conscious of our own interests. We got to. There's so often we neglect ourselves. And why do we do that? Why do we not love ourselves enough to the magnitude that we love others. I've been there. You know how many times I've denied myself that others may be happy? Sat in a space too long? What? I should have been gone, but I stayed there. All because of how people were feeling or how people were going to look at me. No, don't do that again. Save yourself this time. So self-care. Self-care is real. I don't know where we're going to take this, but this is a conversation that we all need to have. We need to learn ourselves again. And I talk about sitting with yourself. Sitting with yourself. It don't, without distractions. Right? What are your needs? What are your concerns? What do you want to do in life? Felice Hensley says, is this Madonna Hensley? I think I remember her. I went to a counselor. She asks, what did I enjoy? And I couldn't answer her. I couldn't tell her. It was everything my kids and husband enjoyed. That's true. We get caught up in that. And you know what? You ain't no good to them unless you breathing, right? And listen, I am almost sure, and I'm a husband. I had a mama. Y'all give a lot. Oh, Madonna's sister, yes. Good to see you on. I remember you, yeah. But yeah. She couldn't tell them because she was so caught up in the needs of the people around her. I'm like that. I've been like that. The needs of other people around me. And it's sad to a sense, right? But don't stay there. This is your opportunity to do something differently. And let me say this. When you show up for yourself, you're able to give them more, right? You're able to be present and not, be spaced out when you need or when they need you the most or when you need yourself. It's so vital in this hour. Now, I needed self-care, and I started this journey a long time ago. I needed self-care because I did find myself. I started out very young, caring for people. Making sure everybody good. Don't want to hurt nobody's feelings. Want to be nice, right? And we all got those sides of us. But it's my turn. It's my turn. It's my turn to show up the way I show up. I come in peace and love. I come in love and kindness. And so that's how I show up. And so how do you show up in your world, in the space you're in? How do you show up? Do you show up whole or depleted? I talk about this in my talk. Many of us who were or are wounded falsely believe we can heal ourselves by helping others be healed. Often our intentions are misled. If we care for ourselves, we'll be a more productive member of our tribe, right? You gotta take care of yourself. It's my turn. Yes, Cindy, it is your turn. Been your turn. Listen, and other people around you can tell you it's been your turn too because they know it's been your turn. You've been the light. You've been the light. Yeah. And so now that you realize it's your turn, now that you have confessed it with your mouth, right? Now that you said it out your mouth, you got to put your time in. Yes, God has been so good to me. Sandy, I believe it. And listen, me too. I can look back from where I come from. I can look back. And listen, some of us are glad to be here. Some of us made it here by the hair of our chinny chin chin. It's the truth. It's the truth. And if the adversary would have had its best work, we probably wouldn't be here. I think about the environment I grew up under. You know, I had a good family. Yeah. I had people who was affirming me, who was telling me I was worth it. You know? But there's a crowd out there who don't want to believe in you because they don't believe in themselves. Y'all know about them people? Be careful of the people, places, and things, right? And yes, Sandy, it is hard work. You got to be pushed beyond these limitations that you have, right? There's limits to us, so we think. Show you this shirt. This is my TED Talk shirt. It says, the sky is not the limit. No, we live under an open heaven. It's open. Get what you want, get what you need. But you got to believe it. You got to tell yourself that you can make it. You got to tell yourself that you an overcomer. And listen, and you got receipts to prove it. You got receipts to prove it. God knows. God knows. So I encourage you to get into this self-care conversation. Get into loving yourself again. Get into showing up for yourself. And some of us, this is our first time. We have been so aimlessly living with no intent, you know, and I get it. A lot of that is because of how we survived, what we inherited, what we survived. Let's talk about that a little bit. What we survived. You know, if whatever you survive can sometimes cause you to build up this wall, right? It builds up this barrier because, listen, if you ever been mistreated, you don't want to be mistreated again. So you watch as well as pray. You looking, you right? Instead of just living your life intentionally to do good, good gonna come back. Intentionally loving people, love gonna come back. It always does. And so I encourage you, choose this opportunity because we may not have this chance no more. Listen, who knows? Who knows? The way life is, if we don't take this chance, we may not have it again. And I don't want to put this, that ain't fear, right? That's not me talking fear. This is me talking reality. We have lost people during this pandemic. There have been people that we loved that are no longer here. And let me say this too. There are people who are no longer here, didn't get this opportunity to choose themselves. They left here caring for people. And not that they shouldn't care for people. But I don't want to live the rest of my days not loving me, not caring about me, not having the ability to overcome the things I need to. And let me say this too. Your story, all those things that people talk about, your past, the things you've gone through, all of that has equipped you to be who you are right now. You ain't got to look around. Search yourself. You are the research, right? You can look in your own life and see that, listen, you have overcome. Listen, you have jumped hurdles. When people said no, you still did it. When people said you weren't going to have it, you still had it, right? So you can look at yourself and say, hey, I'm an overcomer. I'm a survivor. So you've done enough to be where you are now. But what do you do next? And if you're not choosing yourself, I challenge you to. I challenge you to care for yourself this time. Now listen, y'all got any questions on here? Because we're going to talk about this every week. I'm going to come on Mondays. That's my intent, right? To come on Mondays. It started a little rocky, right? Because I had 3 cutoffs and then, it happens. But I want you all to know that I'm just here as a +1 to kind of push you, right? You know how we need a push. We need someone to say it, what we've already been thinking. And I'm almost sure, I can almost guarantee you that you have. Hey, Dr. Cheek. Good to see you on. I'm almost sure that you are able and can and will make things right for you. You know how we making things right for other people. I realized when I was leaving North Carolina, I was running into everybody. People I love, people I probably need to say sorry to, all that stuff, right? People I needed to say bye, right? I see you later. I ran into all of that stuff. But people want to know, why are you going way out there? For me. For me. Yes. Cindy, I agree. Yes, I agree. See, I had to share. I wish more people would do more self-care. Because if we do more self-care, then it becomes a culture, right? If you take care of yourself, your children start to take care of themselves. Your significant other begins to take care of themselves because you are now what? The example. People looking at you, right? But most of all, you're here for you. Because if you're there for you, you'll start to appreciate, right, other areas of your life, right? When you start taking care of you, everything begins to line up. Your heart, your finances, your people. I mean, you name it. Doors start to open up for you because people see positivity. People see love. It's true. Thank you, Sandy. God, order your steps. Yeah. I want my steps to be ordered by God. I do. And I encourage you to. This is not a preaching sermon. This is not one of those things. I'm just giving you some facts and some statistics so we can move on to the next conversation, because there is more. There's so much more to unpack when it comes to ourselves. My grandmother used to say, we are a lot of things. We are. We are a lot of things. And if you think we can get mad, cry, be happy, do all that in one sitting, You know we can. But we have to now choose ourselves. I'm tapping. Forgive me. Choose yourself. Honor that. Dr. Cheek says, does the flip side of self-care means learning to say no? Let's deal with that. It's okay to say no. You ain't got to be the yes person all the time. It is okay to say, I can't do it. I remember, let me go here. So I'm a giver, right? And sometimes, and those who are givers out here, you can probably attest to this. Givers have sometimes, our heart kind of get in the way. Our, things kind of get in the way, right? Because we care about people, we love people, and then sometimes people take advantage of that. But what happens when you can't do it? Right? That no. When you say no to the people. People switch up on you if you say no. And let that be. Right? Because God is making ways for all of us. When you can do it, do it. But I also used to give out of, don't give your rent money away. What? Don't give your rent money away. Don't take away from your kids' food. It's okay to say no. Yes, do it if you can, but it's also okay to say, I can't do it. And there's sometimes when you can do it. Let me say this to you too. I remember years ago, God told me, stop trying to be me. Right? When you're giving out of your, and this is not money, okay? Let's deal with that. It's not just money. We're not talking about money here. I mean, money is an issue, but we're not talking about that. We're talking about your time that you can't get back. Right? We're talking about your joy. We're talking about your peace. Yeah, we're talking about the things you need. Yeah. Say yes when you can. Yes. So the answer to that, there's a flip side to self-care. Self-care is saying no too. Because you're trying to protect your peace. You're trying to protect the things that you have. And some of us are hanging on to our joy. All this stuff going on around us. Keep your joy. And I listen, and these days I'm kind of being I'm being led by the Spirit. I ain't fooling up. Y'all forgive me. These are my people coming through me. Listen, fooling up. You listen, I ain't fooling up with people who don't mean me no good. I ain't fooling up with people who are consistently being a distraction. You showing up for them, and then when you need something, they ain't nowhere to be found. And it's not that you're trying to get back at them. Now, I ain't talking about that. I'm just saying it would be good to get that reciprocation. Is that a word? It would be good to get it reciprocated. That love's precipitated, right? Reciprocated. Yes, and the Spirit will convict you. Absolutely. The Spirit will convict you. I mean, for me, let your conscience be your guide. For real. Listen to the voice that speaks to your conscience, because that voice will tell you no too. Look, the people call it some told me. Some told me not to do it. Some told me. Now, we got to identify who that some told me, because sometimes some tell you to do bad stuff, but your conscience, the things that would tell you right from wrong. Listen, that voice will tell you to stay at home. I'll give you an example, and we may be getting a little off here, but I'll give you an example. I was riding down the street one time, I was about 16, and this is the voice that speaks to your conscience I'm talking about. And I call it the Holy Spirit. Hello. I was riding on the road, and all illegal, right? License had been expired, had bought somebody's car, and they probably had bad tags and no insurance. But I'll tell you, I was standing there, I was sitting at a stop sign, and as clear as I'm talking to you, the voice spoke to me and said, go left, right? Had I gone right, I'd have ran into a roadblock. Now, I know that may not mean nothing to y'all, but listen, we all have been guilty of that, right? Or in some form. And I appreciate that. I don't care. I appreciate that. And that was the voice that, listen, the voice also said, go get them license done. What? Go get them license reinstated. So yes, let the voice speak to your conscience. And we'll talk more about that because that's more of on a spiritual self-care vibe, right? And this ain't to push no religion, because I'm not religious. I'm not religious at all, right? I have a relationship with God. I ain't religious. I don't get caught up in all of that. And I trust, as Cindy would say, my convictions. I trust the Holy Spirit, the Spirit to convict me. And let me say this too. When I'm right and when I'm wrong, right? The Holy Spirit is an encourager. Y'all get me off here because y'all know I love God. But I want you all to be conscious about self-care and the journey that you're on. The journey that you're on. Not looking at nobody else's journey. It's your journey. Right? It's your journey. And you're responsible for your own peace. You're responsible for your own self-care. You're responsible for your mental self-care, your emotional self-care. It's your journey. And social. Let's deal with that a little bit. We never really talk about social self-care. But we all on Facebook, right? For real. You all on Facebook, you all on social media, trying to get that social fix. And the most important person while you're doing that is you. It's you. I ain't doing it for nobody else. That ain't been my vibe. We get caught up in our physicality, how we look because of people. Society has kind of run a lot of stuff, kind of run our world. How we supposed to look. What? Y'all like my glasses? These mine for the season. And I'm going to wear them when I want to wear them. Yeah, I wore them a couple of videos ago. They mine. You see what I'm saying? Show up for you. Got a couple more pairs. Look, I got another one right here. We out here. I'm going to do what I want to do. And you should too. Whatever helps you get, good sleep at night. So I want to keep this conversation going, if you don't mind. Are you going to invite somebody over here? Can I see any hearts or any likes? You ain't got to heart me, just like it. Any hearts or any likes, any cares, any laugh out louds. Because I can holler if I want to. Excuse me. Yeah. Do what's best for you in this hour. Show up for you. Choose yourself this time. Yes, Dr. Cheek says social self-care is blocking folk on self-care. When you get tired, block them. Listen, when you done had enough, block them. Listen, I'm going to tell you the truth. I ain't started blocking people till this year. I ain't lying. Listen. That's right, Cindy. Show up for yourself. Got to. Tag some people. Share this with some people. I'm going to come on at 6:30 again. I think I've been on maybe a little too long, but I want to leave this. Listen. Block or hide. You better say it. Block or hide, right? Put them in that bin. I'm telling my secrets. Sometimes you have to put them in that bin. You know that bin, that friend bin, that you better say it. Because you listen, you know them. You know them in the real world. So you definitely don't want them on Facebook or any other social media. Come on here. So yeah, guard yourself. Guard your heart, your peace. Yeah, you better. Because if you don't, somebody else going to take it from you. So, I'm going to leave you with this. Self-care works when you align yourself with yourself. Can anybody hear me say that again? If you can type that in, somebody type this in for me. Self-care works when you align yourself with yourself. Say it with me. Self-care works when you align yourself with yourself. All about you. And so I'm here to help us do the work. I'm learning too. Every day I have to condition myself to do the work. Thank you, Sandy. Thank you, Felice. I'm hoping I'm pronouncing that right. I love y'all. Self-care works when you align yourself with yourself. Get folk in here. Let's have this conversation. We're going to grow together. We're going to heal together. Thank you. So when I see you on, I won't get that mixed up no more. Oh. Yes. It's about you. So I'm going to go on ahead and fix my daughter some eat. But I want to remind you, self-care works when you align yourself with yourself. The only person you're competing with is you. Haven't we competed enough? Well, everything is a competition. You know, and I'm competitive out here in these streets. What? I'm out here. So I'll meet y'all next week. We'll dive into some of these components of self-care. We will dive into these self-care components. Self-care works. I love you, Sandy. Thank you. I'm trying to go back through, make sure I ain't missing nobody who may have asked a question. Yeah. So, till next time, get people on here. Have people join this conversation. This is us working together to do the work. And so I was kind of, I thought I was a little organized today. But I will tell you this too. Sometimes we're going to be led by the Spirit on this call. on this live. Sometimes we're gonna be led by the Spirit, because I'm gonna say it when I have to. Yeah. And so, with that being said, self-care works when you align yourself with yourself. What you gonna do? Show up for you. All right? I love y'all. We'll talk soon. Peace.